Well, hello, Viking football fans, and welcome to this edition of the Randall Mill Pharmacy Billy Skinner Lamar Viking Football Coaches Show. I'm Bill Farley, and with me, as always, of course, head athletic director at Lamar High School and head football coach Billy Skinner. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. I woke up in Charlotte, North Carolina for the fifth morning in a row, I think. Visiting my former Viking son Charlie and having a great time flying back tonight. But it's always fun to do these shows from different places around the country as I'm sometimes traveling around.
I feel like I'm the best traveled head coach around because I get to be there with you.
you know, one time I was doing it from the balcony at his apartment and overlooking what they call uptown Charlotte instead of downtown. But now he's moved in to a house with some guys out in the burbs. So we
Oh,
did see a
cool.
deer in the backyard the other day though. It's kind of cool.
That's
But
awesome.
hey, I know people are tuned into this to listen about Viking football, not where's Waldo. So we'll kind of get into that stuff. Well, last Friday night, the varsity team got into the win column again. Pretty big statement win, high scoring output by the offense. Defense seemed to do pretty good, keeping things in
Yes.
check. I wasn't there, but heard and saw some things. What do you want to tell us?
Well, I don't know why I did the math on it, but it had been 49 days in between wins. And that's something that I talked
Wow.
to the kids about, and just it was a long stretch, and it was a stretch that required um, a lot of reflection. It was a stretch that required a lot of work and all of those things. And um, I just can't tell y'all how proud I am of our kids and the resilience that they've shown, because it does. It's winning is hard. It is really, really hard to win. It's really hard to win when you haven't experienced the success in the win column for that long of a stretch of time. And so our kids, to make the statement that they did on Friday, and early, the game was a battle. I mean, it really, um, like I told them, Sam Houston is going to come out. They're going to be very well coached, which they were. They're going to be scrapping and clawing. They're in a similar situation to us, and so that first half they came out and kind of punched us in the face on both sides of the ball a little bit. Um, we didn't give up any points on the defensive side, but they were moving the ball a little bit offensively. We were coming up short from scoring touchdowns, all that good stuff. But our kids just kept believing. They kept fighting. Faced a little bit of adversity in the second half, but busted through it in a really, really big way. So just extremely proud of all of our kids for the resilience of that 49-day stretch.
Coach, that's the word that was rolling around in my head over and over as you were talking just now. And I'm glad you mentioned that word resilience because that's what that is. And especially, I can see where the guys might get down if it's a little bit harder fought game than they were hoping for, anticipating, whatever. But being able to keep, the offense of the other team in check and to kind of know, hey, we're going to do what we can do, going back to the things that you and the other coaches tell them and talk about and practice.
Yes. No, and it's a testament to our coaching staff. I mean, our guys, I think they're second to none when it comes to preparation. I think they're second to none when it comes to motivation and kind of getting our kids in the right mindset and letting them know, like, hey, this is what it's going to look like. And really, a lot of the things that our coaches talked about this week kind of came to fruition on the field. So it was a good experience.
It's interesting when you talk about that, saying that things that the coaches have been talking about came to fruition on the field. And that puts the thought in my mind of, there's a lot of classroom stuff that, am I ever going to use this, whatever
Yeah.
it is. And then at some point, wow, I did use that, or that information was handy. So I think there's that dual type thing of there's the classroom, everything that goes into it. And again, the practice, the study, and the hard work
Yeah.
that prepares these guys for football games and seeing that come to fruition as well.
Absolutely.
How did the JV and freshman games go this past Thursday?
All right, so we had two freshman games this week. Our freshman gold team played Arlington High in the under the lights game. It was late night. We started pretty late. and they squeaked away with an 8-6 win, which was really, really fun to watch and really exciting for them. Our JV, or I'm sorry, our freshman Navy team came up a little bit short, but you talk about a hard fought battle. It's another situation where that crew goes down and then they fight their way back and then they tie it up and take a lead. And I mean, that there probably was about 9 or 10 lead changes that felt like in that game. And we came up a little bit short, but we found out, and I think sometimes in those moments you find out a lot about your team. And I think we found out things that we've already known about those guys, just of how together they are and just how much of a team they are. So that was a cool experience. Even though we didn't come out on the side that we wanted to, wins and loss wise, we did come out knowing that, hey, we've got some pieces here that we're really excited about going forward. And then JV wise, it was a really, really good showing by those guys. Tyrone Thomas had a big game. There was a couple of runs that he made. Again, that could be a Sports Center top 10 type play where he's making dudes miss and running people over. And I mean, there was one time he ran somebody over and it made me jump. I was watching it on a screen and it like I flinched a little bit. Like, man, I'm glad I wasn't that defender. And we've got Jaden Shaw playing quarterback there, and he's lighting it up, man. He's putting the ball all over the place, and the receivers are doing a great job of going and making plays. Deshaun Clay keeps popping up and making plays. Ty Rollins keeps popping up and making plays. So Cameron House has a big brother, Devon House, on the JV, and Devon's popping up making big plays. So the JV group did a really, really good job this week and made some explosive plays, and we're excited to see them roll.
Well, lots of talent spread throughout all three levels and five teams with Viking football. Coach, that makes me want to ask, you mind telling us a little bit about what happens with recruiting? I know there's got to be some schools, colleges, universities that are looking at some of these Vikings and curious about other ones that they may not have heard about or seen yet. Do you mind telling us a little bit about what's involved in that process?
For sure. Well, I'll start off by talking about how we organize it here at Lamar. We've actually got a staff that is responsible for recruiting. So Coach O is Coach Anyabule. He is our defensive ends coach, but he's also our recruiting coordinator, and he kind of spearheads that entire group. He's got a staff of Coach Viard, Coach Wiggins, Coach Ramos, and Coach Williamson, and those guys between them, they split up the duties of getting transcripts of the kids, making sure that the highlight tapes are what they need to, having those meetings with the kids, communicating with coaches. There's a lot that kind of goes into that, and that staff, they do such a good job. The other thing we have here is a recruiting website. And at this recruiting website, we have player cards, and that way coaches can actually interact with a player's card. They see the pictures of the kids, they see the videos of the kids, they see their GPA, they can see what they lift, they can see all of the things. They've got access to their huddle, they've got access to their Twitter account so that they can make contact with kids that they're interested in. It's a neat little one-stop shop. So whenever a college coach will reach out, we'll send our recruiting prospect list to them, but then we'll also send them our recruiting website. And when they tell us, hey, I'm looking for a 2026 wide receiver who can do this and do this, I'm like, okay, I've got two of those guys for you. So we'll send those cards directly to them. So it's about trying to find the right fit for all of our kids. And there's some kids where the recruiting process is a lot easier, because they've checked a bunch of boxes, and so they get a bunch of offers. And Braylon Williams probably doesn't need a lot of our help from a recruiting aspect of getting guys to come and look at them. Whereas we've got some other guys that they're not on the radar yet, but we're going to push them onto the radar. And we think that there is a place for all of our kids to play somewhere. And so we
Sure.
we work really, really hard to make sure that they get those opportunities.
Well, and you mentioned players like Braylon Williams and others that are going to have options flowing into them. I can only imagine they're going to need like some mentoring help or some ideas about how do you handle when you're the subject of lots of big name schools wanting you to come to them.
No doubt about it. And then you start putting in the NIL situation and all of those things. And so talking guys through the fact that your name, it's a business. And so what that means to be a business, and kind of getting into, not getting too deep into the weeds with that, but also knowing that we're going to have some guys that are going to have those opportunities too whenever they get to the next level.
Sure enough. Well, it's a whole lot different from going to the mailbox and going, "Hey, look, I got a letter from whatever university," or "Hey, I got two letters from." Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt.
well, sure glad to hear about that. Thanks for sharing what all goes into that and how sophisticated the Lamar Viking football recruiting process and what y'all are doing with and for those young men. That's and their families. That's really great.
Well, it takes a lot of work, but a lot of our kids have voiced that they want to go and play, and we also have very real conversations with them, because you think that's something you want to do. Well, we're going to kind of give you a peek into that life too. So, like
Yeah.
an athlete at any level, whether it's Division 1 all the way to NAIA, all the way to JUCO, there is there's a standard, there's an expectation, there's a commitment level unknown to, I mean, it's one of the hardest things that you can do. And so we want to make sure our kids have those opportunities, but we're also going to give them a realistic look at what it looks like.
Excellent. Well, this week coming up, as we are typically recording this on a Tuesday morning, going to play the Arlington Colts at Choctaw Stadium on Friday night, the varsity game. There'll be some sub-varsity freshman JV games on Thursday, I believe.
Yes.
Hey, look, Arlington, they've got a high-scoring offense. I was looking at their record, wins and losses. They're putting some points on the board,
Yes.
whether they come out ahead or behind at the end. What are y'all doing to try to help prepare for their specific type of offense?
So they do a really good job of game planning defenses. And so they find formations that they feel will hurt you. And then they're going to come out in those formations and make really good adjustments, game time, real time. And they find creative ways to get their best players the football. So as a defense, obviously we've got to recognize things, we've got to get lined up, and then we've got to make sure we're putting a cap on deep balls. A team like Arlington High, they can thrive on massive plays down the field, and so we want to do a really good job of putting a cap on that, making them earn everything that they get. So that's one of our big emphasis is, hey, get lined up, make sure we're in our spot, make sure we're putting a cap on everything.
What are some of the toughest things about coaching cornerback, safeties? Those positions come to mind first on the pass defense, because you want tight coverage. Every so often, hey, an interference call might save the touchdown. And I know people aren't going to purposely, break the rules and all that, but you've got tight coverage. Sometimes they're a little too aggressive and they get the interference call, didn't mean to. What can you tell us about how playing, passing offense works?
So, that was my life for a long time. I played in the secondary.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Kind of
I
a
really,
loaded question, coach.
no, no doubt, no doubt. And I equated to putting
Yeah.
tools in the tool belt. When we coach our defensive backs, when I coach DBs, when I play DBs, I thought of it as I have a tool belt on my waist, and in that tool belt, I've got multiple options between each play. I know that this coverage requires this technique and those kind of things, and so you've got that Rolodex going, and all right, I'm seeing this from the offense, so I know I've got to line up here. I know I've got these two options when it comes to he goes out, so now I've got to make this decision. One of the tools in the tool belt, and it's funny you bring that up, is tackle him. Tackle him before he catches the ball. And yes, I may get a penalty for pass interference, but I tell our kids all the time, I'd rather give up 15 than give up 6. So if I have to take you to the ground and get a pass interference call before you get into the end zone and catch a ball, we're going to do that so that we can line up. Because again, as a defensive coach, my philosophy is make them snap the football again. If they have to snap it and execute offense, that gives us an opportunity to stop them.
Yeah, and that goes back to that WTD. That's win the down
Yes, that's
with
right.
that D, right?
That's right.
And
Yes.
live for the next one and so on. Okay. All right. What else do you have in mind that you want to share about how the team is, everyone pretty much healthy? I know we've had some bumps and bruises over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Do you feel pretty good about where the team is physically?
I do. Again, we're as healthy as any other team that's in the eighth week, and really about the 11th, 12th, 13th week of football. So there's always going to be some discomfort. There's always going to be a little bit of that. But our kids, they've done a really good job of buying into the cold tub. They've done a good job of buying into air boots and those kind of things where we're taking care of our bodies, and we understand that it's we're not going to be 100%. And I told them after the first week of camp, hey, this is the best you're going to feel all year long. It's all downhill from there. But I think our health is a testament to our strength and conditioning coordinator, Sam Lackey. He does such a phenomenal job of getting our kids ready in the weight room, and we lift throughout the season. And he's put together a program that I think has kept our kids out of the training room and on the field.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds great. About all you can hope for at this
That's it.
point in time, it sounds like. So what's on tap this Thursday night for freshman and JV games?
So freshmen, we have two games, 5:30 and 7 p.m. So the Gold will play Arlington High at Arlington High at 5:30. Then the Navy will play Arlington High at Arlington High at 7 o'clock. The JV will play here at Cravens at 5:30. The Gold team will take on Martin. So Martin's going to come over for round two. And then the Navy team will take on Arlington High here at 7 o'clock at Cravens.
Okay. Playing two different opponents, a rematch in one case. And
Yeah, that's right.
all right. Well, again, it's great that y'all are able to get games for these guys as many times as you can, especially when one school may not have both teams at one level or both teams available, whatever the case is. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, absolutely. Love to see our guys compete. So we want to do everything we can for them.
Well, I'm looking forward to being back in town this weekend and announcing on Thursday night. And I think we're set up to do a broadcast from Choctaw on Friday night for the varsity games. So
Awesome.
still accepting those cases of 20-ounce sports drinks, right?
Yes.
They might have
Always.
frozen up. Still accepting those cases of 20 ounces of sports drinks. Yeah.
Hey, we're
Oh,
always
sorry.
accepting.
I've got an unstable connection here. Okay,
No
good
problem.
deal. Anything
Someone
else
said that
to
about
say
me
about
too.
anything else? Unstable connection.
Yes.
um, anything else to add on about other sports going on, Booster Club? Anything else, Coach?
We've got tonight at 6 o'clock. We've got some really good stuff happening here on campus. So we've got the 2024 edition of the Viking Bowl. We've got Shack versus Nichols.
Oh yeah,
Nichols is actually looking to complete a perfect season and a city championship. So a lot on the line. Shack has been, I mean, they've got some explosive football players. They've got some big dudes that can roll, and they got a kid down there, Isaiah White, who he might be the fastest eighth grader. He might be the fastest eighth grader in the state. I don't know. This dude can fly. It's
wow.
scary how fast he is. So excited to go and watch that matchup. We're gonna pull out our big run through and have both teams run through, and at the end of the night
Nice.
celebrate that we're all Vikings. So excited about that happening tonight. Also here is the volleyball game versus Arlington High. So that's always a fun one to watch and always a fun one to just an electric atmosphere. So if you have an opportunity to get out and see some future Vikings play football, but also get over to the gym and see our young ladies compete against Arlington High. So excited about that.
Else to add on, Coach?
I lost you there for a second, but if you're
Oh,
asking me if there's anything I
yeah.
need to add, no,
That's
sir.
exact.
We're ready to
That was
roll.
exact. You must have read my lips or known what's next in our unscripted routine of stuff. Well, good. Well, Coach, I sure appreciate you as always making time for this and the fact that I can ask just about anything. And you're very open and you provide a lot of good insight on the whole program.
Hey, I appreciate everything you do and giving us the opportunity to talk about the program.
Uh, right. Well, hopefully the connection gets stable here, as I say. Until next time, I'm Bill Frawley with head Viking football coach Billy Skinner saying VFND.
VFND.